What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, I want to talk on a back and forth that went that Jason Whitlock has had with this guy Nick Fuentes, right? And a lot of people think that Nick Fuentes is like a radical and a racist and stuff like that. And so Nick Fuentes has some choice words for Jason Whitlock, and I want to kind of listen to this audio of the back and forth that Jason Whitlock and Nick Fuentes had, and just add my just add my point of view to that. And let me see if I can find this. And, yeah, so here we go with Jason Whitlock and Nick Fuentes.
12, where he says my role is to confer dignity on white conservatives. Let's play SOT 12.
And by the way, you are a token. Hey, Jason, you're a token. You are in conservative media as a black guy that can confer upon white people the dignity of not being called a racist for having their views. That's why you get paid. And that's why I don't, because I didn't have the privilege of being born black. I was born white. So there's a limit on what I can say. There's a limit on what I can say without being penalized in the so-called free marketplace of ideas. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows. And everybody's sick of it, especially in the conservative space, that blacks have had it easy. It is, and I don't doubt that he's a sincere person. I'm sure he's a sincere person. I'm sure he's genuine. But you are playing by a different set of rules, pal. You have training wheels on. You think you've earned it? Everything you have. Take a look around at your studio, your contract, your employees. If you said the stuff that you said as a white person, your ass would be fucking gone. And everybody knows that. You're on Blaze hosting E. Michael Jones talking about the Jews. It's a good fucking thing you're black, because if you weren't, you would have been fired like Elijah Schaffer.
All right, before Jason Whitlock respond to that, I just want to say that so Nick Fuentes, he make a few points. He said that like Jason Whitlock able to say some things about black people because he is because he's black. And then so white people, it's almost like he's like the mouthpiece for certain people, right? And my thing is with Jason Whitlock, I think that sometimes Jason Whitlock, Jason Whitlock will come down hard on black people, and then when it comes to criticizing and critiquing like white people, like Jason Whitlock don't do that, right? And so people don't like the fact that Jason Whitlock is not he's not fair when it comes to his opinions. Whether you agree with him or not, or whether you think he's right or wrong. He's not fair. And then so Nick Fuentes points this out. Then he also calls Jason Whitlock like a token, and that's part of the reason why I call him a token, because he think that Jason Whitlock is the mouthpiece, for certain people with certain beliefs and stuff like that. And that's a issue I have with Jason Whitlock. Like, and you'll see, like, even Jason Whitlock's rebuttal to what Nick Fuentes says, like, Nick Fuentes just went in hard on him, right? And just called him a token and everything. But he still didn't really, stand up to Nick Fuentes or go as hard at Nick Fuentes as he would somebody like Stephen A. Smith. So if Stephen A. Smith was to attack Jason Whitlock or rebut something that he said, he would take like each one of Stephen A. points and break it down point by point, to explaining why he disagreed with Stephen A. Smith, or explaining why he think that Stephen A. Smith is this way or that way. When, this guy right here, he basically, he's not even going to basically defend any of his points against this guy. And so I'm gonna play the audio And so you can hear his own words, like his response to what Nick Fuentes just said.
I'm glad I remembered that clip because there's a couple things going on here. There are, there's jealousy. There is some sort of belief that I'm immune to the consequences of my journalistic standards, of my approach to journalism. How dare you interview E. Michael Jones? And, if you were white, you would have been fired. And he's comparing me to Elijah Schaefer. I've had Elijah Schaefer on this show years ago when he worked at the Blaze.
See, I want to stop it right here, right. See, so none of the points that Nick Fuentes made, like he's not addressing that at all. He's not saying that, all right, I'm not, I don't have a bias for this group or that group, and then make a point in saying, all right, and so here's an example, like I went after such and such, and I also went after such and such. He don't do that. He just he just kind of like beat around the bush and stuff like that, and then talk about his credentials as a journalist, but he don't address these points the same way he would as if he was talking to somebody like Stephen A. Smith. And so I'm gonna listen to some more of Jason Whitlock's response to what Nick Fuentes said.
And when you are 57, 56 at that time, or when you start here at age 52, 53, when you have put together, when God has put together for you the journalistic career that I've put together, and I'm sorry, that God has put together for me, and I say that in all sincerity, that the things that I accomplished as a journalist, and they're on record, there's no question about it, that God allowed me to be one of the best sports journalists, and this will be offensive to the people that hate me, but it's just reality, in American history. Accomplished some things, wrote stories that major national impact, time after time after time again, exposed truths that no one else was going to expose. And I'm in my 50s, and he's comparing me to a child who was at the beginning of his career in the media, and expects that a child in this profession should be treated like a decorated military veteran in this profession.
So you kind of get the point, right? All of those statements that Nick Fuentes made, he didn't address not one of those. He didn't try to break down, like he didn't try to deny anything about him being a token. He didn't try to deny him anything about like being the mouthpiece for certain people. He talked about his journalistic career and his accomplishments, but he didn't deny anything, right? And so the thing about like when people like Nick Fuentes, when they hand people like Jason Whitlock their Negro wake up card, it's just seemed like that these guys are still in like people like Jason Whitlock are still in denial, even though you kiss their backside and everything like that. They let you know that, we still don't mess with you like that, and they tell the truth that only reason why you able to say that and things that are politically incorrect is because you are because you black and you basically you're trying to pander to that order to white people so you can like feel accepted, but then some white people still don't, no matter what you say, they still not going to be accepting of you. And so, you know, and the fact that he don't, like I said, come back and go at this guy as hard as he would somebody like Stephen A. Smith, or he don't even address the points that this guy made. He don't try to rebut anything. He just talk about like how old he is, which the guy never said anything about his age. He talked about his career and where he is at this stage in his career, which the guy didn't. Again, Nick Fuentes didn't address that, and so he really makes Nick Fuentes' case for him. You know, and I just like to say that can't like some people feel like they have to pander to white people so they can be accepted, and who else gets accused of that, Stephen A. Smith gets accused of that. Like he'll go out his way to drag somebody black, right? And then as soon as somebody white have like the same issue or the same problem, first thing he wants to say, well, this person is my friend. We don't have enough information, and people see through that. And even though people see through that and people call these guys out, they call out guys like Jason Whitlock. They call out guys like Stephen A. Smith for trying to pander to people, to be in their favor. And they still go along with it and they still do it. So, I think people have to just recognize that Jason Whitlock, people like him, they know what they're doing. And they know that the other side still don't accept them, but for some reason they still they still feel the need to pander. And like I said, Jason Whitlock, he never addressed any of the points that this guy made about him. He just, like a politician, he did a whole lot of talking without really saying nothing. And so that's my take on it. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.